Hello, everybody, and welcome to the lovely Tuesday afternoon Microsoft Teams Fundamentals training. Just give us a couple minutes and we'll be going live with the training at about 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, everybody, it is about time we got started here. Let me just introduce myself real quick. My name is Shane, and I am a service advisor at the Microsoft Store in Pentagon City. And today we're going to be going over the basics of Microsoft Teams. Again, I would like to thank everybody for joining us. And I also have my moderators, John, Timothy, and Rhonda. They are going to be answering questions that you post in the chat. And yeah, I would like to thank them very much for being here as well. But let's go ahead and get started. So what is Microsoft Teams? Microsoft Teams is the hub for teamwork in Office 365. It integrates Office 365 productivity tools in one place and is the next level of communication through chat and calls, and collaboration through file sharing, co-authoring, and screen sharing. It is deeply integrated with Office 365, including utilization of one's digital identity within Office 365. Permissions, presence, and more are tied to this identity. So Microsoft Teams works with what we call the 3 C's Communication, collaboration, and customization. You can communicate through chat, meetings, and calls, collaborate together with integrated Office 365 apps, and customize your workplace and achieve more. And depending on your agency and your tenant, you can also have your phone system set up with Teams so that you can make calls in Office 365 and Teams. Teams also has a wonderful cross-platform experience. You can use the desktop app, which will work on Windows 10 and Mac OS. You can download the mobile app, which will work on iOS and Android, or you can even use everything within your web browser, using the web app within the new Microsoft Edge and Google Chrome. Alrighty, so just give me one moment. I'm going to switch over and we will get everything started within Microsoft Teams. Alrighty, so here I have the web app for Microsoft Teams. It is almost exactly the same as the desktop app. There are only a few features here and there that are not available. One of the main ones is going to be sharing your screen within a chat. But other than that, everything is going to be almost identical to the desktop app for Teams. So real quick, I just want to go over the user interface of Teams. So over here on the left, you will see our different menu options. Up at the top, we have activity, and that is going to be your notification feed, much like in a social media app or your smartphone. Right here, we have chat. Chat is, if you are used to Skype for Business or any other kind of communication app, chat is going to function very similarly to that. You can have one-on-one chats as well as group chats. Teams is going to be where the actual team workspaces are. A team is a workspace that you're either an owner or a member of. Calendar is going to be very similar to your calendar in Outlook. In fact, your calendar in Outlook and your calendar in Teams are going to reflect each other's. Underneath that, we have calls. This is where you can make video and audio calls to your contacts, as well as if you used Skype for Business, your contacts will live in here as well. And then under that, we do have files. Files are where all of the files that you have access to within Microsoft Teams will show up. And then up at the top, we have, this is our new chat button. This will allow you to create a new one-on-one or group chat. And then we do have our search bar up here. The search bar within Teams is very comprehensive and can search messages sent within Teams, as well as people and files that you have access to. And then over here on the right, we have your digital identity menu. If you click on that, it's going to give you some menu options. You can change your availability, set your status message, view your saved messages, and change your settings within Microsoft Teams. But the first thing that I am going to go over today is going to be the chat icon. So like I said before, chat is very similar to Skype for Business in that you can have one-on-one chats and group chats. Keep in mind that with Skype for Business, when you finished a conversation with somebody, you would be emailed that conversation history. Now that was nice whenever you wanted to go back and look through it, but it wasn't super convenient. So chat history within Teams is 100% persistent. And even if you hide a chat, your chat history will always remain there. And I can show you by going up here and clicking New Chat. And see, I don't have a chat over here on the left with my friend John, but if I go ahead and start typing his name here and click on it, you can now see my chat history with John is now available to be viewed. So I can go ahead and say, And that will allow this chat to show up over here on the left under my recent chats. Now, I want to go over this message bar and talk about all these different functions down here, because it's going to be the same in chat as it is in Teams. So the first one is going to be formatting. Now, this is going to be pretty standard formatting options that you might be used to in Word, PowerPoint, Excel, so on and so forth. You can bold, italicize, underline, strike through, change your colors and font sizes, paragraph formatting options, as well as quote or add a link. And there we can see when somebody is typing within a chat, it'll show up right here that they are typing, so you can see who is active. And then next to that, you are going to see the exclamation point. Exclamation point, you will be able to change your default message sending, which is standard. You can change it to important. If you send an important message, you can see right here that it'll say that it's important on the top. And we can go ahead and send that. And then you'll see right here, it's got the exclamation point over on the right side, so that anybody scrolling through the chat or the team will be able to see that it's an important message. Up here, you can see that John has sent me an important message as well. In addition to important messages, you can also send urgent messages. This is definitely not a feature to be taken lightly, though, as it will notify the recipient every 2 minutes for 20 minutes until they have read that notification, and it will even go around the do not disturb availability setting. So you definitely don't want to use this one lightly. Next to that, we do have the attach paperclip. If you click on that, it will allow you to upload a file or share a file from your OneDrive. It will remain in your OneDrive, but everybody within the chat or team will have access to it. Or you can upload it from your computer, in which case it will put itself into your OneDrive, and then share it with everybody here. Next to that, you have the fun options. You've got the emojis, you've got the GIFs, and you've got the stickers. And these are some fun things that you can use to spice up your messages a little bit. And as we can see here, John sent me a GIF. Next to that, you have the schedule a meeting button. We will go deeper into what it's like to schedule a meeting within Teams, but I just want to let you know that you can schedule a meeting with a one-on-one chat or a group chat, and it will automatically invite everybody within those chats to that meeting. Next to that, we have the Stream button. Microsoft Stream is a video hosting platform, and if there's a video that you want to share, you can go ahead and post it in here. And then the last option we have under here is praise. And praise will allow you to send praise to a coworker or fellow employee that shows them that you appreciate something that they've done or the hard work that they're putting in. And that will allow them and all the other employees who are available within that chat or team to see that you appreciate what that person has done. And I believe we have some praise up here. Now, the cool thing about praise is not only does it call somebody out, but you can see this little @ icon over here on the right side. That means that I was mentioned. So when you when you post praise for somebody, it will automatically mention that person. You can see I can highlight over my name right here, and it'll show a little bit of information about me. But praise isn't the only way to mention somebody. In fact, to mention somebody, all you have to do is type the @ symbol, and it'll automatically give you a list of your recent ats or people within the chat. So I can click on John here. And if I mention him, now it just shows as a regular blue link for me. I can highlight over it. I can see some information about him, and I can also use this to start a chat, send him an email, view his organization information, or start a video call or an audio call. But to him, it will appear as this one did to me, where it shows an @ symbol on the right side of the message and his name highlighted in orange. So there we go. You can see right there that he has messaged me. So when you mentioned me. So when you mention somebody, it will send them a specific kind of notification called a mention notification. As you can see over here on my activity feed, there's a one bubble saying that I did get mentioned. And right here, you will be able to see read receipts. Read receipts will show how many people within the chat have viewed the message that you've seen. And you can turn read receipts off in your settings. However, depending on your organization, they may require you to have read receipts on. In addition to that, you can also see that John has reacted to my message. So by reacting to my message, John has shown me that he's seen my message without having to actually send a message himself. And anybody can react to any message by hovering over it and clicking on the reaction that they want to use. And by hovering over the reaction, you can see who has reacted. And that's a good way if you are in a team or a group chat with a lot of people and you want to make sure that everybody has read a message without everybody responding that they have. You can say, hey, everybody, give this a thumbs up after you've read it. And then you will be able to look at that list and see who has read it. So in addition to these reactions, you also have some other options in this ellipsis menu. You can save the message, which we could access by the menu in the upper right. You can mark it as unread if you want to come see it later. You can share it to Outlook if you want to get an email, or you can open it up in Immersive Reader. And then more options, you're going to get your app options. So now over here on the left, you will see we do have a fair number of chats open. And this is just going to sort itself by putting the most recent chat at the top. So there are a few different ways that you can organize this list to make it a little bit easier to look at. So let's say that I'm talking to John a lot and I want to just always be able to find his chat at any time. By hitting this ellipsis on the right or by right-clicking it, I can mark as unread, which I went over earlier, but I can also pin it. And if I pin it, you'll see now it shows in the top underneath the pinned menu. And let's say this group chat right here, I also want to be able to pin. I can do that. And now you'll see they no longer show up within the recent, they show up top in the pinned. So if I click on recent, it'll collapse the entire thing, and I can just look at the chats that are the most useful to me. Now, when I first started this, my chat with John wasn't over here on the left. So let's say I have a chat with somebody that I isn't necessarily, I'm not using it anymore, or maybe I was added to a group chat that I don't want to see in my list of chats. Another thing that I can do is I can go and I'm going to actually hide this one over here. I can go down here and I can hide a chat. Keep in mind, hiding a chat will not get rid of your chat history. Your chat history is always going to be persistent, meaning that it will always be there even if they are hidden. But as you saw at the beginning, when I opened up my chat with John, just by creating a new chat, it will bring all of that chat history back.
So a couple of things to keep in mind here about why you might want to have named chats or to pin chats. So say you're working on an upcoming event for an all hands or an open house or something like that, but it's only going to last a couple of weeks, you know, or a week or so. You may not want to necessarily create a full team for it. So you would have that chat, but you know you're going to go into it at least once a day, multiple times a day. That's a good use case for when you would want to pin it. Something maybe consistently back and forth between you and your manager that you know you need to go back to often. Those sorts of use cases are great examples of why you would pin chats. And then maybe later on they become less valuable, so you can unpin them, hide them, etc.
Perfect. Thank you, Bonnie. So I know we've talked about the one-on-one chats and we've mentioned group chats. Now, creating a group chat is easy. You can go up to new chat right here and you can start typing multiple names. Oops. And you can add multiple people to a group chat this way. But let's say that you are already working with somebody who you want to be involved in the group chat. Up here in the upper right, you will see the Add People button. And if I click on that, it will allow me to add somebody to a chat, and it will turn it into a group chat. Now, because I already had a chat history with John, that's not going to be visible to Joni, who I just added to this chat. It's going to create an entirely new group chat. But let's say Joni isn't the only other person I want in this chat. Maybe I want to add somebody else as well. So if I click on this button again, now it gives me a list of people in the chat, and now I can click on Add People, and I can add another person to the chat as well. But now, oh, let me send a message first so that you can see chat history. So now that I have chat history and I'm adding somebody to a group chat, we now have the chat history menu, which will allow us to not include chat history when we add somebody to the chat. So I can click Don't Include Chat History. I can click Include Chat History from the past number of days, or I can include all chat history. And this is useful maybe if you are working on something confidential or sensitive and you want to loop somebody in for a part of the discussion. Everybody else who is already in the chat will maintain their chat history, but the new person you loop in will not be able to go back and look at the chat history. Keep in mind, if I click Include All Chat History and I add somebody to the chat, it will send a message to everybody in the chat right here that I have added System Administrator to the chat and shared all chat history. So it will let everybody know that I have shared the chat history. So now I've got a couple people in this group chat, and up here at the top, the name of the group chat is just everybody who's currently in the group chat, and same with over here on the left. So what I can do now is I can click on this pencil icon, and I can create a name for this group chat. And what that will do is it'll change the name up here, and it'll change the name over on the side. And that's another way that you can organize your group chats and make them easier to find. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pin this one at the top as well. So as you can see, the one-on-one and group chats within Microsoft Teams are super simple to use and very user-friendly. And like I said before, now that we've got multiple people, I just want to show you real quick. If I click on Schedule a Meeting, you're going to see right here, it automatically adds everybody within that group chat to the meeting attendees. So that's a great way to quickly set up a meeting with people in a group chat. However, if you want to meet right now, up here in the upper right, you will see video call and audio call are two of the options, and you can click on either of those to immediately ring everybody in the chat to start a meeting. So another thing that chats and Teams have in common are going to be these tabs at the top. So the first tab is going to be the chat. In Teams, it's called Posts, but it's going to be the communication within. But next to that, you're going to have the Files tab. Anytime anybody uploads a file to a team or posts a file within a chat, it will show up here in this Files tab. So as you can see right here, this is a file that was sent by John, and I can access it directly through this Files tab. If I just click on it, it'll open it within Teams itself. But let me go ahead and find this message, because there are a few options that you can do when opening the file that are going to make it a little bit easier to work within that file. So here is where John uploaded the file, and notice it has a 3-dot ellipsis menu as well. And if I click on that, I can click on Edit in Teams, which is what will happen if I just click on the file itself, or I can click Open in Desktop App. Now what that will do is it will stream a copy of the file to your desktop app on your computer itself. You're not downloading the file, you're just opening it within your desktop app. And that means any changes that you make will reflect on the source document. Same as if you edit it in Teams, and same as if you click on Open in Browser. It will allow you to edit the source document. Another option you have is download, and this is not as recommended, as if you download the file, it becomes a copy of the file, and any changes you make will not reflect in the source document. So it's definitely recommended if you are trying to co-author on an app to click any of these. You can also get a link if you want to share a link to the file as well. But I'm going to go ahead and click Edit in Teams because I want to show you what the co-authoring experience within Teams is like. So now you can see I have the file, and immediately it is letting me know that changes were made by John. So since I last opened this file, it is telling me that John has made some edits. So you can see right here, the little blue dot, and that shows me all the edits that John has made since I've last opened the file. So now this is what it looks like working on a Word document within Teams itself. You've got the basic layout up here at the top. You have a button right here to open in Desktop app. The reason that might be useful is while most formatting options are going to be the same within the web app and the Teams app, there are a few formatting options and some other features that are only going to be available in the Desktop app. So if you're working on more complicated things, you might want to open in the Desktop app instead. And then over here, you can see this little JF just popped up. That means that John also has this document open. And I can actually see, I can click Go to Location, and it'll show me that John's cursor is down here, and he is working on this line right here. And what that means, there are a few limitations when it comes to co-authoring. Keep in mind, up to 10 people can co-author on the same document before you lose efficiency. After that, it may get a little bit slower if you have more than 10 people. In addition to that, if you're working on a Word document, then everybody has to be working on different paragraphs. If you are working on a PowerPoint presentation, everyone must be working on different slides. And if you're working on an Excel spreadsheet, everybody must be working on different cells. And that just keeps it from getting a little bit too confusing and preventing people from changing the same things over and over and over again. But this is where it will show everybody who is currently co-authoring. If there's more than a couple people up here, it'll just be a list that when you hover over it, it'll show you everybody in there. In addition to that, you can also make comments. Comments will allow you to say, hey, I think this needs to be changed, or hey, I would change this. But then you can also click on conversation. And what that will do is it will open up the chat or the team where this was posted. And that way you'll be able to continue that conversation directly within the file, having the file open, and you can communicate with your team while everybody is co-authoring. And then from here, you can also open in browser or download it as well. So in chat, there are a few tabs that are going to be unique. So because I'm having a one-on-one chat with John, I also have access to the organization tab and the activity tab. And what that means is if I click on organization, it's not going to show anything now because our demo tenant doesn't have an actual organizational structure. But this is where you would be able to see whose manager is whose and who works for whom. And then under activity, I'll be able to see John's activity. So these are the things that he's posted that I can see. So you can see that he scheduled a meeting, he posted a few things, and he replied. And now over here, we actually have a custom tab. So earlier, when John uploaded his file, he also created it as a tab. And I'll show you what that looks like. Right underneath the file itself, you can see John Franco added a new tab at the top of this chat. So that's this tab right here. It's called Word. And if I click on that, you'll see that it's actually the same file that we just had open. So in addition to accessing it through this Files tab right here, you can also create it as its own tab right here, and you can even rename it or remove it. And that's a great way to add resources if somebody needs to use them. In addition to being able to add files as tabs, if you click on this little plus, you can add a couple different things as tabs as well. Here's where you add files, PDFs. You can link to Power BI for data analytics. You can link to Microsoft Stream to post a video as a tab. You can even add a website as a tab. So adding a website as a tab, it does need to be a secured website, so it must start with HTTPS instead of just HTTP. But it will allow anybody who has access to that chat or that team to access that website just by clicking on the tab. So if I click on Microsoft Store right here, it's actually not going to work because our demo tenant doesn't allow us to add websites. But I can get around that by clicking on this button right here, which will take me directly to the website. On your tenants, it should allow you to just access the websites directly from this tab. But I'll get into tabs a little bit deeper when we get to Teams. But before I move on, I just want to know, do we have any pressing questions about chat?
I think just a couple of questions were, not only adding the additional users, but can you remove people who are in your chat?
Yes, you can. So if you have created a chat, under this, you will actually see when I hover over people, it has a little X next to their name. So let's say I decide that I don't want system administrator in here anymore. I can remove them. It'll let you know that they still have access to the chat history that they were there to see. So even if you remove them, they will not receive new messages from this chat, but they will still have access to all of the chat history that they were present for. And you can see right now, it'll say that I removed system administrator from the chat.
One more.
Mm-hmm.
Did Teams chat save to the Outlook conversation history? And that would be a no.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But they don't overlap, right? So that where people, I want people to be clear that Outlook and Teams are different. They don't overlap. But what you can be comfortable with is that chat is currently kept in perpetuity, so it's persistent. It will be there unless it's deleted by a user or the retention policy. Also, people seem to have some questions on can you delete chats, right? When you delete chats, you can't really delete a chat. All you can do is hide it. So again, it's something that's discoverable, auditable. This is, official course of business. So just want to make sure people are aware that the two don't overlap in the same way. But instead of having to go through and search your conversation history, you would just search Teams and you could find your conversations.
Yes, thank you, Bonnie. That is a very common question we get, is whether or not you can delete chats. And like she said, the chat history is persistent while you can hide them by clicking on the ellipsis. Oops, you can't hide a pinned chat. Clicking on the ellipsis and clicking hide. I just hid John's, but if I go up here and type in John's name, all that chat history is going to show up again.
And we've got one more that just entered into our queue here, is that can files from SharePoint be shared, or only files from OneDrive or our computer?
Yeah, absolutely. So SharePoint is actually what Teams is built on the back end. Any files that are uploaded to a team or a channel will be uploaded to that channel's folder in SharePoint. And when you are in a chat, because chats are more for a one-on-one or a small group basis, there's no way to upload from SharePoint within this menu. However, you can generate a link to a file or a folder in SharePoint and paste that within a chat to give other people access to it. Keep in mind, it will be something that they'll need to have permissions for.
All right, and we had one more question on creating meetings, scheduling meetings, which I'm sure you're going to get to in just a couple minutes.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to go over Teams, and then I'm going to go over Calendar and go in depth into creating new meetings. Alrighty, so this is what a Teams looks like. If you open up Teams and you click on this tab and you don't see any teams over here, that means that you have not been added to any teams yet. Every time a team is created, it is created in one of three ways. It can be a private team, in which case the person who created it will be an owner, and they will have to manually invite people to that team. It can be a public team, which will allow anybody within the organization to be able to lead it. I'm actually going to leave that real quick. Yes. Yeah, a public team will allow anybody within the organization to join that team, or you can create an organization-wide team. And an organization-wide team will automatically add everybody within that organization to that team. And so if you're booting up teams for the first time and you've been added to an org-wide team, those teams will show up over here automatically. But if you have not, you will not be a part of any teams, and you will need to be invited to a team or join a public team. And to join a team, we have this button down here, join or create team. And if we click on that, it will allow us to either create a team. If we create a team, depending on your agency or your tenant, you may have to request access to create a team. You can join a team with a code. A code is something that can be generated by an owner of a team to allow anybody they give the code to join that team. And this is what it looks like when there is a public team. So because this team is public, it shows up within this list. And if there were other public teams in this organization, they would show down here as well. But I can just hover over this and it'll allow me to join that team. But I'm not going to do it just yet. I'm going to show you real quick what it's like to create a team. Now, it'll allow you to build it from an existing 365 group or team if you already have that created, or you can click Build a Team from Scratch. And here again, you have the options. Private, everybody needs permission to join. Public, anyone in your org can join. Or org-wide, everyone in your organization automatically joins. Now, earlier, as you saw right here, one of the options is to join a team with a code. Now, when you've created a private team, anybody can request to add a member to that team, but only owners can approve members of that team. Unless an owner creates a code to allow somebody to join a team, in which case anybody with that code can join that team without somebody approving their membership. So just keep in mind, if you're generating a code for people to join your team, anybody who gets that code will be able to join. But I'm going to go ahead and join this East Coast team. You can see it says joined, and now down here at the bottom, it shows that team in my list of teams. Now, this demo tenant has a lot of teams. So as you can see over here on the left, it is a little bit overwhelming. So remember, you can always click on these to collapse these menus, and you can even hide your teams by clicking on the ellipsis and clicking the hide button. And if you do that, the teams, instead of being hidden and not accessible until you start again with a chat, teams will be hidden under this hidden teams menu right here, which you can collapse and expand as much as you want. So hiding a team is a great way. If there's a team you're a part of and maybe you can't leave it because it's an organization-wide team, or you don't want to leave it because it's a public or private team that you want to be able to check whenever you want, you can hide it and it won't show up in your list of teams. So every team is made up of channels and tabs. So the channels are going to be listed here underneath the team itself, and the tabs, much like the tabs within chat, are going to be listed up here in the top. A channel is dedicated to a specific topic, department, or project. Conversations around that topic, department, and project are held here, and the channel can be customized with its own tabs to bring resources into one place. A channel also creates a folder for the channel's shared files. And tabs are a good way to give members a quick access to resources. A tab can link to Office 365 tools and more. So whenever a team is created, by default, it will just have a general tab. And then it is up to the owner to create a general channel. And it is up to the owner to create new channels for that team itself. And the use of channels, if I can give you an example, is in my store where I work, where we use Teams, the channels are broken up into the different functions of the store. So we have our general channel where we just have our general conversation, our services channel where we talk about the answer desk and the services we provide, as well as readiness where we post all of our new e-learnings, performance where we talk about our team's performance and what's going on, etc. And then in addition to that, if we need to create groups of people that don't fall into those channels, that's when we would create a group chat. So we have specific things in mind when we have all of our channels, things that are never going to go away, but anything that might be temporary or maybe involves a smaller group of people from across different channels, you would want to create a group chat for that. So in each team, whenever a channel is created, it is automatically going to be hidden unless the owner of the team decides it will not be hidden. So if I click on hidden channels right here, you can see there are actually 2 channels that are hidden right here. If I click on OSHA Safety and Health, it'll still allow me to visit that channel and I can still see things within that channel. But right here, you can see that it is italicized, and that is because the channel is still hidden. And if I click away from it, it's going to disappear. Now, if a new channel is created and it's one you want to see all the time, you can go ahead and click on this show button right here, and that will allow you to see that channel and access it at any time. And if you do that and decide you don't want it anymore, you can click on the hide button and hide it again. Now, let's say that there are some teams and channels that you use all the time. You can do the same thing that you did with chats. Click on this ellipsis, click on pin, and that'll have that channel show up at the very top. And that way you can pin multiple channels, and it'll pin them in the order that you pinned them, and then you can drag them around to rearrange them. And that way you can have the channels that are most pertinent to you show up at the very top. All right, let me see. I think one of these channels, yeah, here we go. So now within Teams, you have all of the same options down here at the bottom for posting a new message. This is the only option that's different. This is the Meet Now button. That is very similar to the button up in the upper right for chats, which allows you to create a new video call or audio call, except this will ring everybody who is currently within the channel that you are meeting in. You can schedule a meeting within a channel, like the system administrator has done right here, and I will show you how to do that when we are going over scheduling meetings. But one thing I want to talk about is how every conversation within the channel, instead of just being a list of replies all the way down through the history, you can now reply individually to different messages. So Arthur posted this message about a Florida hurricane incoming. He marked it as important, and I went ahead and replied, "Thank you for the heads up." So anytime you click on reply right here, it will open up a message box, and any reply you mark here will reply to the message within here. And that way, channels are a bit more organized than chats themselves. So all of the conversations stay together and all of the pertinent information stays together. But you might be curious now, we see these big banners right here. If I click on formatting within a team, in addition to just starting a new conversation, I can also add a subject. Now, adding a subject will show up just like this. It'll be bolder and a little bit bigger, but I can also click here where it says new conversation, and I can change it to an announcement. An announcement will give me a headline, and I'm able to type in whatever headline I want, and I can also change the colors. And you can see right here that John has created a headline that says check it out, and he's changed it to a nice teal color. But in addition to that, I can also click on this button right here to change the background image. And that's what Arthur did up here when he changed the background image to a picture of a hurricane. And those are some more ways that you can use to get people's attention. And especially when you want to say something very important, in addition to tagging it as important, you can also make it an announcement. I'm going to go ahead and discard that for now. Yes. And I will also show you another thing you can do is post in multiple channels. If you click on post in multiple channels, it'll automatically add the channel you're in, but you can also select channels and you can add more channels that you want the message to post in. And you can see right here, this link or this icon right here. Let me go ahead and discard that. This icon right here will let everybody know that this message has been posted in multiple channels. Keep in mind, if you post a message to multiple channels, the replies will be unique to that channel. So say this was posted in Northern Disaster Planning and Northern Earthquake Exercise. If I reply here, that reply will only be in Northern Disaster Planning. Now you can see many of the similarities between chat and Teams. You can see right here that John mentioned me, and it shows right here the @ symbol over on the side. You can see right here that Arthur created an important message, and over here that exclamation point on the side, as well as the highlights over on the left. Orange highlight if you've been mentioned, red highlight if it's important, or it's a purple highlight if it's a message that you've sent. You can see this message right here. I was not mentioned, it's not important, and I did not reply, so there's no highlight over on the left. And just like in chats, you can react to messages as well. You can also save messages, mark it as unread, copy a link to the message, share it to Outlook, open it in Immersive Reader, or you can even turn on notifications for a specific conversation so that anytime anybody replies, you will get a notification. Now there is a tab that you can add to a channel within a team that is a little bit different than anything you'll find in chat, and that is going to be the Wiki tab. The Wiki tab up top will allow you to basically create anything you want to. It's going to be very similar to a OneNote notebook if you're familiar with that, but you are able to add articles, how-tos, as well as any other kind of information you want to share in here. And so a wiki is basically anything that you want it to be. For example, I'll use my store as an example again. One thing, I work at the answer desk, so I fix computers. And if there's ever anything that we need to keep in mind, like for example, command prompts, there's a lot of them and they can be very complicated. So we've actually created a wiki where we've listed all of our command prompts. And anybody can access that at any time and look at those command prompts and use them to fix or troubleshoot problems. And then if you click on the plus button up here, just like in the chat, it'll show you which tabs you can add. There are a couple more. You can link directly to a SharePoint document library or a specific SharePoint from within here. And you can also add some other apps like Forms or Planner. You may be able to add third-party apps, but it's very likely that when starting out, you will only have access to the first-party apps. Alrighty, so before I move on to the calendar and scheduling meetings, do we have any questions about Teams themselves?
Yes, wanted to talk through one use case in particular. So got a question from a mediator about how to organize mediation and also how to have only a segmented group of people in mediation part of a conversation. So I've got a couple of thoughts around that, and I think what we'll show, John, is probably a private channel. But the first thought is, okay, if you're having a short mediation where it's probably just a one-time session, that'll be probably covered in meetings. But if you're having an ongoing mediation session, you could set up a team with the mediator and all the parties that are involved. You would need some level probably of external access in which to do that. So you can invite the external people into your mediation. If it's all internal, then that's easier. But you would create a team full of all the folks involved, and you could upload and share your files, collaborate. You can schedule your meetings directly in that, and you'll see that again later as well. And then, but to do where you would only see a certain segment of people. So say you only wanted the mediators themselves to be part of a conversation and all the other parties part of the main team, if we could review probably a private channel to show them how to do that.
Sure thing. So like I said, when teams are created, the person who creates them is an owner, and everybody who's invited after that will be designated as an owner or a member. But if you click on the ellipses next to a team, if you are an owner of the team, you'll see some extra options. Anybody can go into these menus, but you may not be able to actually do anything within the menus if you are not an owner. But if I click on Manage Team, that'll give us a bunch of options for managing the team itself. So this will allow me to look at everybody who is an owner. This will allow me to look at everybody who is a member, as well as what roles they have over here. And I can actually click on those roles to change somebody from an owner to a member, or vice versa. Keep in mind that it is possible to change yourself from an owner to a member. So don't do that accidentally, or you're going to have another owner raise you back up from a member to an owner. Up here, you can add a member. And when you add a member, it'll just allow you to type in their name, and you can add them that way. If anybody who is not an owner has invited somebody to a team, they will show up under here as pending requests. But over here, you will see the channels menu. And this is where you can create new channels. And one of the things you can do when adding a new channel is designate it as a standard channel or a private channel. So if you create something as a private channel and you hit next, it will create that channel, and then you will be able to designate who in the team is allowed to see that channel. and I'll go ahead and add them. And now, even though Marvin and John are both owners in this team itself, because I've created the private channel, I can decide whether or not I want them to be members or owners of the private channel within the team. So even if somebody is an owner of a full team, I could create a private channel and only have the people invited to that channel as members. So now we have the private channel right here, and John and Marvin have been added to the private channel, and you can see this little lock icon will show up on the right, and that shows that it's a private channel. And other than that, I can do all the same things that I could do with any other channels, except now I can control who in the team has access to the channel and what they are allowed to do. Let me just quickly go through the rest of the Teams management as well. These checkboxes right here are whether or not the channels will show by default once they are created. If I go over to settings right here, it'll allow me to change some of the settings. Team picture is what's going to show up here. And it's also going to show over on the left here. Member permissions, this is what I was talking about. Whether or not members are allowed to do things like create and update channels, create private channels, delete channels, add, remove apps, upload custom apps, so on and so forth. Depending on your agency or tenant, some of these things may be forced on or forced off. You can also change what permissions guests have if you have a guest invited to your team. You can choose who is allowed to @mention the entire team or the entire channel, which will tag everybody in that team or channel and send them all notification. You can also generate a team code. This is what I was talking about earlier with joining a team via a team code. Again, if you generate a team code and give that to somebody, then anybody with that team code will be able to join that team without permission. And you can turn on or off access to the fun stuff, the GIFs, the stickers, the memes. And then you can choose who's able to modify tags. And then you have analytics, which allows you to very quickly look at your usage in your team, show you how many users you have, a graph of what the active users are like, and will allow you to look at that up to the last 90 days. And you can look at it for specific channels as well. And then you can look at what apps have been added to the team. One more thing I actually want to go over is I just mentioned who is able to manage tags. So I want to look at that real quick. So right here you can see I can create a tag, or I can see what tags are available. A tag is actually a group of people who are all added as a specific role. So for example, in my store, I work at the answer desk. Everybody who works at the answer desk has a specific tag. And by doing that, you can mention that tag and it will notify everybody within that tag that they have been mentioned. And I can even start a group chat with everybody within that tag. So if I need to speak with everybody in that tag for some reason, or I'm a part of that tag and I want to start a group chat with that tag, I could do that as well. And like I said, I can even mention tags, which you can see I've done right here. And anybody who sees that will be able to look at that and see who is a part of that tag. Alrighty, do we have anything else you need me to go over before I get to calendar?
Yeah, we had one question. If we could perhaps talk about the parity between the web, desktop, and mobile versions of Teams. Are there any key differences?
Sure. So the biggest difference between the web and desktop is if you are using Teams on the desktop, you will actually see, in addition to this video call and audio call up here, there's also a share screen option And so within the desktop app, you are able to share your screen directly from a chat. Whereas in the web app, you can only do it from within a call or a meeting. The mobile version is going to be a little bit more limited in what it is able to do. However, there are a few apps that work only on the mobile version. For example, Shifts is an app that we use in my store, and you can view your shifts within the desktop app. However, you need to punch in and punch out using the mobile app. Other than that, I'm not sure there's a ton of big differences. One thing I do have is I have a website which will tell us all the exact differences, and I can link that in the chat when we're done.
Excellent. And then are you able to organize your teams in a priority instead of just alphabetical?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So any of your teams, it's actually, they show up in the order that you've joined them. But any of them, you can click and drag, and you can move them around and sort them however you want. So you can have your most important channels up here pinned at the top. Underneath that, you can then have your teams organized by how often you access them. And then down at the bottom, you can have your hidden teams that you want to hide away and not have to look at every time you look at your list.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we're set to move forward.
Awesome. So the next thing I want to go over is calendar. Those of you who are familiar with, oh, there we go. Those of you who are familiar with Outlook should be familiar with how the calendar looks in Teams, because it is going to be very similar. In fact, Teams will pull your Outlook calendar, and Outlook will reflect your Teams calendar, with one major difference. If you want something to be a Teams meeting, you will need to either create it as a meeting from within Teams, or in Outlook, there is a specific button you need to press to create a Teams meeting from within Outlook, which I will get to that shortly. But as you can see right now, it's the work week view. Right now, you can change between work week, day, and regular week. There is no monthly view right now, but that is a feature that has been suggested many times, and it is important to a lot of people, so we may see it in a future update. But you can also click on this button to be able to see the entire month here and navigate through and look at specific weeks. And you still have your today button just like in Outlook. But now you can see here is a recurring meeting that I have. If I click on that, it'll allow me to edit the meeting, but I'm going to go ahead and show you what it's like creating a new meeting. Meet Now will allow me to create a private meeting that only people I invite will be able to access. But I'm going to click on New Meeting right here. And this is what it is like when you are creating a meeting within Outlook. I'm sorry, within Teams. So up here, you can add the title of your meeting. I'm going to call it the afternoon meeting because I'm very creative. And I can add some attendees. I'm going to add John and Marvin and sysadmin. And let's say Joni. And as you can see, we've got some suggested times down here. There is a scheduling assistant that you can use. And if I click on that up at the top, you can see right here, it actually has everybody's schedules listed out. So we can see the morning meeting is all 4 of us are invited to the morning meeting and all accepted to go to it. And right here, whereas Marvin has an extra meeting after the morning meeting. So up here, this is the all attendees view. and this shows when everybody is busy. And so the earliest time I would want to make this morning every day is at 11:15 or maybe 11:30. Yeah, 11:30. Because that is when I know Marvin will be available. So scheduling assistant is very convenient when you are trying to make meetings with multiple people and you want to make sure that it's something that everybody will be able to attend. Oh, no. Go back to details. So here you can say when you want your meeting to be, what time, whether you want it to be an all-day meeting. You can decide if you want it to repeat every weekday, every day, every week, every month, every year, or custom. You can also tag a channel. So we saw some meetings posted in channels earlier, and that's how this is done. So if there is a channel I want to come to this meeting, I will click right there, and it will add that meeting to that channel. And everybody within that channel will be able to join that meeting at any time. It does not mean that they are all required to join that meeting. So if you want them to be required attendees, you should add them up here. But it does mean that they will be able to join that meeting at any time. And then you can also add a location. So if you have a specific room in your building or a specific building on your campus, or maybe you just want to meet at the Starbucks down the street, you can always add it right here. And then you can add the details for that meeting. But because, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and repeat this every weekday, and we'll make it from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. There we go. Oops. So now you can see we have the afternoon meeting in addition to the morning meeting that I already created. And if I go to click on that again, it will allow me to edit it. But now you can see, because I've created the meeting, now we've got our join details. So we have a link to join the Microsoft Teams meeting. Anybody who has access to their email can click on that link and use it to join the meeting whenever from whatever device they're using. It'll take them to the web app, but they can choose to open it on the desktop. And then here is a call-in number. If you call this number right here and put in this conference ID, it will allow you to call into the meeting using your phone. Keep in mind, if you do that, you will not have access to any video that is being shared in the meeting. And then, because I clicked on that meeting, and it's a meeting I've already created, now it also has this join button. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, because any meeting can be joined at any time. And I'm going to disable these right now, but now it'll take us to the lobby of the meeting, or the powder room as I've heard it called, which will allow you to check how your camera looks if you want to join with your camera on, check and make sure your microphone is on or off. Now, if there's a certain number of people already in the meeting, your microphone will default to off, and it'll tell you that there are people within the meeting and that you shouldn't disrupt them by joining with your microphone on. You can also join audio off, which if you are in the same room as some other people who are already in the meeting, this will avoid the reverb and echoing. You can join with your phone having the audio of the meeting, but your computer will have the video of the meeting. Or if you have a conference room that has a sound and video system for use with meetings, you can use that as well. And then right here, you can adjust your audio and video devices. I'm going to go ahead and click Join Now. And this is what it is like inside of a meeting. Right here, you're going to have your meeting menu, and this will give you some options. Again, we have the ability to turn the camera on and off. We have the ability to mute and unmute. We also have the ability to share the screen. And if I click on that, now because the web app has fewer things that you are able to do when sharing the screen, it just has desktop window and specific PowerPoint files that you can use to share the screen. So I can open up the PowerPoint file that was already uploaded to Teams itself, but I can't share anything from my desktop. I'm going to stop presenting now. If I click on this ellipsis right here, it'll bring up some other things I can do. I can access those audio and video device settings again. I can show meeting notes. So if somebody is taking notes during the meeting, or somebody has taken notes ahead of the meeting, I can access them right here. I can show the meeting details. This will allow me to look at the join info, and I can copy that and send it to somebody if I need to. I can also enter my phone number and have it call me if I want to join with my phone. Say my internet isn't that great, I can use that to have it call me, or I can call it if I want to. And then we can also enter full screen, bring up a keypad in case we're calling somebody into the meeting and we need to enter in an extension or something like that. We can also start recording. Once you start recording, it will put a It will put a banner up at the top saying that everything is being recorded. And once the recording is done, it will upload to Microsoft Teams and allow the owner to download it and share it. We'll go ahead and stop that. I can also turn off incoming video, which if other people have joined the meeting and they have their video on, and maybe they meant to turn it off or join with it on accidentally, or it's a little bit distracting and you're presenting, you can turn everybody's incoming video off. And you can also end the meeting. So normally if you press this red button right here, that hangs up and just you leave the meeting. But if you are the meeting organizer, you can end the meeting, which will boot everybody out of the meeting and make it so that nobody is taking up that meeting space if you need to join it later. And then we have the conversation. So now you can see here is the meeting chat. So anybody who doesn't have their microphone on, or even people who have not joined the meeting but were invited to the meeting, all of those people can access this chat. And in fact, if I send a message to this chat, let's go ahead and go back up to chat right up here. And you can see that we now have a group chat that is everybody who was invited to the meeting is a part of this group chat, and it shows that the meeting was recorded. It shows the message that I sent, and even allows you to join the meeting directly from this group chat. We can even access files that were uploaded, meeting notes that were created, as well as any whiteboard notes that somebody made. And you can see right here, I navigated away from the meeting, but it still shows a little picture-in-picture that I can access. Even if I'm not on the screen itself, I can turn my camera on, unmute myself, share my screen, as well as access the other options. And then I can just click on that to return right to the meeting. And then right here, I can see the participants in the meeting. I'm the organizer. I can see everybody else who I have invited. And if anybody else was in this meeting, I would actually be able to mute them as well if I wanted to. You can see my little mute icon right there. That would show up to anybody else who is currently in the meeting, and I would be able to mute them. And then if I want to invite somebody new from a meeting I'm already inside, I can invite somebody or type in a phone number to send them a call. Also, another thing that I find to be really cool is if a meeting is a recurring meeting, then this meeting chat will be the same meeting chat for all of the recurring meetings. So this chat will be continuous for every single meeting, and anybody who either missed the meeting or is not able to join can contribute via the chat right here. So that's everything from within a meeting itself. Also, you can see right here, when the computer hears me talking and my microphone is muted, it will let me know. That's nice in case you accidentally mute yourself and you're trying to present. Teams will let you know that your microphone is muted when it hears you. I'm going to go ahead and hang up. Now, we didn't have a call, so I'm not going to fill this out right now. But if you ever have any issues with your call quality or your call quality was really good, I definitely recommend hitting this because Microsoft does take feedback very seriously. So in addition to creating a new meeting, there is also one other type you can make, which is a live event. A live event is what we are doing right now. And a live event is basically one or a couple presenters and producers who are giving a presentation and up to 10,000 attendees who are able to view the presentation and can ask questions in the Q&A session. Alrighty. Next, I'm going to detour from Teams real quick because Yep.
I'm sorry, Shane. I just wanted to. We had several people ask if your calendar in Teams syncs with Outlook.
Yep. Like I said before, your Outlook calendar will reflect your Teams calendar, and your Teams calendar will reflect your Outlook calendar. And that's actually what I was about to jump over to. I was going to show Outlook and show what it is like to create a Teams meeting from within Outlook.
Excellent.
So here we can see this is my Outlook calendar right now. Now, all of these meetings are actually Teams meetings. I actually don't have any Outlook appointments or Outlook meetings because everything we do is within Teams. But up here on the top, you can see that there is a new Teams meeting button. And if I click on that, it's going to be just like creating a meeting within Teams. And it's very similar to creating an Outlook meeting. You just add the recipients right here, add the subject, add the location. You can add specific rooms, and you can even use Room Finder from within Outlook if that's something you're used to using. And this is a great way if you need to invite somebody outside your organization to a Teams meeting. You can create it through Outlook and add their email addresses in this to box, and that will allow you to add people outside your organization to a Teams meeting. You can also preview your join information over here, and you've even got a little bit of the scheduling assistant down here. And the only way to join a Teams meeting is to click on that. If you click on new appointment or new meeting, it will not allow you to join it as a Teams meeting. It'll still show up in your Teams calendar. It just won't be a Teams meeting that you can join. Alrighty. Awesome. So do we have any other questions about the calendar before I move on?
Nope, we're good to go.
Awesome. So I'm going to go through these next two a little bit quickly just because there's not a lot to them. Calls, again, if your phone system is routed in through Teams, you can use this. Right here, you have speed dial and favorites, as well as your contacts. If you have used Skype for Business, this is where your contacts will be. They will come into Teams and you'll be able to use them through here. You can add them to your favorites. You can view your calling history. And then if somebody calls you through Teams and doesn't reach you, they can leave you a voicemail. But even if your phone system isn't routed through Teams, you can still use this to make calls to other employees as well, video and audio. And then files. This is going to be all of the files that are in Teams, as well as your OneDrive, as well as that were uploaded to group chats that you have access to. So recent is going to be the list of files that you have opened, and you can sort it by name, when it was last modified, as well as where it's located. So you can see John shared this in a chat, and it is being shared from his OneDrive. Whereas this is the same file he uploaded to a team, and as you can see, now it is in an actual SharePoint folder. You can click on these to open them where you want them to be opened. But if I click on Microsoft Teams right here, this might take a couple seconds to open just because there's going to be a lot of files. But this is going to be all of the files that I have access to in Microsoft Teams. And there we go. And now you can see here are all of the files that I have access to in Microsoft Teams. It's a whole lot of files. And while I can still sort them, it's still going to be a lot of files, and they're not going to be super organized even if I can sort them. So that's actually going to bring me to the next thing I want to talk about, which is the search bar up at the top. So I know John uploaded a file called Please Check This, but I can't remember where he uploaded it. So if I go search for it, first it's going to show me all the messages where any of those words are present. But I know it was a file, so I'm going to click on File right here, and well, here we go. Here's the file, and I can click on that, and it'll go ahead and it'll open it right within Microsoft Teams. But let's say, okay, maybe I didn't want the file itself. Maybe I wanted to see John. So now I search for John, and these are files that John has uploaded or worked on within Teams. But if I click on people right here, now we have everybody who might fall under John. So I have John, I have Joni, and I have Jonathan Storm. And if I click on messages, now it's going to be every message that John has sent or that somebody else has mentioned John within. So again, the search function within Teams is very comprehensive. You can use it to find pretty much anything that you may have access to. And you can even, as you see up the top, type / or the @ symbol for a list of commands. So if I type / it'll allow me to see somebody's activity. I can change my availability. I can look at files. I can go to a team or channel. I can go to help. Any of these things I'll be able to access by just typing / and then that thing in the search bar. And if I type @, it'll give me a list of people as well as a list of bots that I can use. Keep in mind, bots are just like third-party apps. Depending on your tenant and agency, they may not be available to you. And then over here on the right, we do have our digital identity menu. I can upload a new picture. I can change my availability. Now, a couple of these availabilities will change automatically. If you're in a Teams meeting, it'll say busy. If you're presenting in a meeting, it'll go to Do Not Disturb. Do Not Disturb will make it so that you do not get any notifications, with a couple exceptions that I'll go over in a couple minutes. You can change to Be Right Back, or you can appear away, which will happen automatically if you're away from Teams for 5 minutes. But now I want to show you under privacy, priority access is going to be the people that, excuse me. Priority access is going to be the people that you want to be able to reach you at any time. And so you can add somebody to priority access. And even if you are on Do Not Disturb, it will allow them to message you, and you will get notifications from them, even if you are presenting and you are on Do Not Disturb. You can also block contacts, enable or disable read receipts. Again, depending on your tenant, that may be forced on or forced off. Or you can allow Microsoft Teams to send you surveys. Back in general, you can see we have different themes. I'm a big fan of the dark theme, but I find the default theme to be easier to present in. Or you can even do the high contrast theme, which will allow some people to see even better. You can change the app language and the keyboard language. Keep in mind that this is not a translation. This is going to be the language of the application itself. And then you can also change the notification settings. By default, a lot of them are going to want to send you emails. Depending on how many emails you like to get a day, sometimes I recommend just doing the banner, or maybe even only showing in the feed. The banner is going to be that little notification that comes in from the lower right-hand corner whenever you get a notification in Teams. And you can change it for mentions, messages, and some other things as well, whether or not you want to get a notification. And you can also change a couple settings within your calls. And then the last thing I'm going to go over before we open up for a couple more questions is going to be the help menu down here. So the help menu is my favorite part of Teams because under topics and training, it will allow you to go in and read articles and view videos that will give you information on Teams itself and how to use Teams, and you can even search for it. So let's say create meeting. There we go. I've got a little 4-step process on how to create a meeting. And I can also click on training, which will give me the list of videos that I can go watch. They're going to be, 1 to 3 minutes long, super quick and very easy to look up. And a great way, if you ever have any questions about Teams in the future, to check out. And the next thing is what's new. What's new is basically the patch notes of Teams, and that will allow you to see what things have changed in the most recent updates to Teams. So if you come back to Teams and it works a little bit different than you're used to, you can go to this what's new, also access down here by clicking on what's new, and that will allow you to look at what has changed since you've last used it. And then the last two, suggest a feature. If there's something that Teams doesn't do that you want it to do, and you want to let Microsoft know, click on suggest a feature, and it'll take you to the feedback website where you will be able to look at features that other people have suggested and vote them up if you think they're important, or suggest your own feature. And then, of course, you can give feedback. Again, Microsoft takes feedback very seriously, and we appreciate all the feedback and feature suggestions that anybody can give. So that's going to be about it on my presentation on Teams, but do we have any other questions for these last 5 minutes?
Yeah, we do. We have a few questions in regards to files. And the first one I wanted to bring up is where files are saved, meaning if I have a file in a chat or I have a file in a Teams channel, where are those files actually saved?
Sure thing. So if I upload a file to a chat, that file is actually going to be in my OneDrive. If it's already in my OneDrive, it'll stay in my OneDrive, and it'll just give everybody else in that chat access to view and edit that file within my OneDrive. If I upload a file to a team, it is going to be in the SharePoint folder of that team itself. So for example, if I want to click, I think the Earthquake has some files in here. If I click on files over here, I'll be able to see the list of files in here. And as you can see, there is an open in SharePoint link. And every channel has its own SharePoint folder, and all the files uploaded to that team in that channel will show up within this SharePoint folder. And that will allow you to access those files from within that SharePoint. And if you're used to syncing SharePoint folders, you can even do that from Teams. You can click on that sync button right there, and that will give you that folder on your computer itself and allow you to access those files at any time. So chats are saved in the OneDrive of the person who uploaded them. Teams, the files are saved in the SharePoint of the team itself.
Excellent. And are there limits to the number of files or the size of a file in Teams?
When it comes to the size of the file, I am not aware of a limit. However, the number of files is going to be limited by the SharePoint data storage limitations. So that varies, but it's usually going to be pretty high.
Okay.
What's it called? Before, when it comes to file sizes, it says, let's see, message size, file attachments, and inline images limits are the same across all Office 365 licenses. And to be more specific, if we're talking about say, where is it? Like emailing a channel per se, the message size is 24 kilobytes. Like number of file attachments in that email is 20 file attachments, and then less than 10 megabytes per attachment for that. When it comes to it, the same thing applies to like file attachments in chat. Like if you want to send a number of amount of files, and then where is it? Chat sizes are 28 kilobytes, and that is an approximate limit because it includes the message itself, like text, images, links, etc., and mentions as well. Here, I posted the link to all limits and specifications within Teams in the Q&A if anyone else is interested in just what other types of limits there are for Teams.
And sticking with the subject on files themselves, if you're in a team meeting, can I open a file and have it appear in a pop-out window rather than take up the whole window of the team meeting? Basically, what this person is asking is she wants to be able to refer to documents but still see people in the meeting at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. So any of these files, instead of opening them directly within Teams, you can open in the actual desktop app itself. And if you do that, it will be a separate window from Teams, and you will be able to have that window open and have a meeting open at the same time. Does that answer that question?
I believe so.
All right, we have about 1 minute left. Do we have any other questions that I need to address?
One person was asking about a user manual for Teams, and I was just about to reference the quick start guides and other materials we have at I believe office365.com, but correct me if I am wrong on that address, please.
I go to support.office.com. You can see as soon as I start typing it, it comes up.
Yep.
And this is great for any Microsoft Office program, and including Teams. You can click on Teams, and it's got quick starts. It's got specific articles for everything. Anything you could need to know about Teams is going to be in here. And you can even click up here to look at some trainings and look at some admin stuff as well.
Excellent.
All right, with that, I think we are about out of time, but I do want to thank everybody for attending our presentation today. And I do want to thank my chat moderators. Thank you guys very much for helping out. And we do ask that you, please, we're going to link a survey. I don't know if it has already been linked. If not, I can publish a link to it right now. But a survey that will allow us, I'll post it right here. that will allow us to know how we are doing. So please go ahead and click on that and fill that out and let us know how this training was. And we will also post a link to the recordings of today's training as well as all the previous trainings we've done. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming out, and have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your Tuesday.
Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. We're going to end the recording now. Thank you so much.